What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Muscle, and this is another Two Line Music Hut's Entertainment Report podcast. And today, we have a really special guest in the building. Listen, I spoke to her about 2 weeks ago, virtually, but now I have her live in the studio. We get to sit down and talk to Etana, the strong one. What's going on, my sister?
Day I give thanks for life. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Welcome back to Toronto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you like it this time now that you're here in person? You're feeling the weather and stuff. How are you liking Toronto right now?
It's as expected. It's not too cold. You know, it's just right. I think.
You like this type of weather, or you like a little bit more heat?
I prefer when it's a little cool, not when it's too hot.
Yeah.
And not when it's too cold either.
Yeah.
You know, but everybody likes to be right in the middle, right there somewhere.
That's your thing.
You know, we just don't get that choice.
Yeah. It's all good, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I know you're original representative of Augustown.
Yeah.
All right. What was it like growing up in Augustown back then?
Nice. It was nice. The river was higher. There's more water. Parents were more concerned about kids going to the river. You know, because the water was high.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it's dried out a lot. You
Dried
know.
out.
Yeah. It's not as powerful as it used to be, but it definitely does still run. You know, and you know, kids play together from different side of the community. And it was less of nobody go for this because this, that, you know, less confrontation and less mix up and pasa and less war, you know. So it was definitely a sweeter time to me to
Sweeter
be
time.
in Augustown, yeah.
Yeah. And I know you grew up with all brothers.
All boys, like my cousins, not brothers, you know, because I'm the only child from my mother, and my father has a son. So of the two, there are two children, you know, separate. But I had I still do have a lot of male cousins that we grew up together and did all the fun stuff together. I did all the boy stuff, you know. So I grew up like one of them.
Yeah. So I'd see you up in the tree. You're going for the mango, the coconut. You're the one up in the tree?
I never climbed the trees. They'd climb the trees, you know, but like to climb the house, to jump off the roof, we did that.
Yeah.
We did the cowboy, you know, reenactment of movies we watched and the Spider-Man and all them something there.
Kikas and all that.
All the Chinese, you know, kung fu stuff. We were doing all of that, karate, you know? Yeah.
You look like, even though you're small, but you come across as a real warrior still, you know. I know you're a warrior. I know that. I don't have to ask
I think the
Christ.
world know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
world
warrior.
know.
Yeah.
Real one.
Yeah, man.
I can't. I think it's just, you know, it's in me. Maybe I wasn't born that way, but I learned over time.
No, but I would say that probably that warrior spirit
I
lives
probably had
in
it.
you. Yeah, it lives in you.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be so natural. Yeah, I think so.
One of those things there.
So I guess all the warrior stuff that I experienced was just a little bit of training.
Yeah. Outward training for the spirit that lived within you
Yeah,
already.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, you're different already. It's all good. So you're in Augustown, growing up with the boys, doing all. So even going to school, what type of student were you in school? Were you a good student, bad student? You liked school, didn't like school? What were you like?
I learned differently. I wasn't one of them who could take, you know, all the abuse, like from the teachers and from the, you know, parents or whatever. Because my spirit, as you already see, is naturally rebellious, you know. So if you start with that, immediately I shut down and you have a problem.
Yeah.
You know. And I think that's what affected me for the most part, because back then parents still believe like you need to get beaten if you can't do your homework properly. You know, I'd be like, oh, well, so I don't do it then. Like if you beat me, I'm going to take the beating and then just don't do it. You know, because it has to be one or the other, you know. So I was one of those kids. But
So
then
rebellious.
through middle school, though,
Yeah.
my mom became like a nurse. So she was no more a court reporter in Jamaica, but a nurse in Florida who was rarely home. And so I had to learn on my own, to do everything on my own. And then I became a straight A student. Then I became the honor roll student
Yeah.
consecutively. You
But you
know,
did it on your own
on
terms.
terms, exactly.
Warrior.
There was no one saying you have to do this. And when I came home with my grades too, there was no one saying, "Hey, let me see your grades, what they look like." You know, my mom would just come home and see the certificates on the wall, and she knew that everything was all right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was just meant to be so because I was better off that way.
Yeah, it's like leave you alone, let you do your own
Let me
thing. You'll
figure it
figure it
out.
out.
Yeah.
And from there, you'll put the pieces together.
I did. Yeah.
That's how you see things.
Yeah.
Got you. So then I know that you migrated to the States very early also.
Yeah.
You didn't spend too much time in Jamaica as a kid?
I was like 9,
Yeah.
8 or 9, and we moved to Florida.
What was that like the first time now moving to Florida?
Oh my God. Oh, I hated it.
Why?
I hated it because, you know, my grandmother was my father's mother, and my mother ended up in the same house together. You can
Father's
imagine.
mother.
Yeah, and
and-
my mother.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's the mother-in-law, and and it ended up in the same house. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't work for anyone, you know. And they started fighting, and you know, my grandmother would do some weird things, like she would lock up all the food and them things, and I would be in the house, you know.
Yeah.
And then one day it just got real bad, and she said, you know, open your mouth and see if I don't lick in your face with this pot. And I was like, well, if you lick she, you have to lick me too. You know, and she was like, well, you know, you got to get out. She told my mom that she has to leave. So I was like, whoop, phew,
We're all gone.
I'm out too. But
Yeah.
by the time I got out of the house, my mother was already gone. So, you know, me end up on the street, like, you know, going from friend to friend house. Like, can I stay, ask your mom if I can stay by your house for a little bit?
Yeah.
You know, and then after the liquor bit run out, then I had to go to the next friend. I was like, yo, can you ask your mom if we can stay? And I did that for a while until my mom found somewhere for us to live, you know?
What was that period of your life like, going through that, especially as a woman, going through something like that in your life? What was that like for you?
You know, when I look back at it now, I wasn't scared. You know, some kids would have been like so afraid. I just wasn't afraid of nothing. Like I was just chilling. And I didn't realize how, you know, because in Florida, most of my friends' mom too, they were our parents. They were single parents except for one who lived with her mom and who lived with her mom and stepdad. Right? And so like then we say, yo, all we ate most of the time was hot dogs. Like all the kids, like we came home from school and the parents wouldn't be there. They were at work and we just cook hot dogs.
Yeah.
And that would be for dinner, lunch, whatever. Like they just buy a bunch of hot dogs and that's all we ate, you know? And then like after a while, they're like, yo, we can't feed so many of you. You gotta go.
You gotta
And I'm
hit
like,
the
all right,
road."
yeah. So it's like, you know, from house to house to house. I just wasn't afraid, and nothing happened to me at all. Like I can't say, oh, this parent did this to me. None of the parents did anything to me. They were very cool because I would be the math head in the house, and so all the kids who didn't know math,
Yeah.
they would come to me and I would help them do their homework. And so I because I would come home every day and do my homework and go to school every day on my own without somebody even taking me. Like we all lived, you know, close distance, maybe mile or two to the school. So I would walk that mile. You know, if I had to, I would walk.
Wow.
Walk. And,
Yeah.
and so I would walk to school, come back, do my homework, and help them with their homework. So the parents was like, oh, you kind of helping out here.
You could stay for
Yeah.
a bit longer. You're earning your keep, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can stay around a bit. All right. No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, and so I think that's what it was for me because I was so determined to like have good grades all the time, no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the good part for me. And so all the parents kind of just love having me around. I wasn't a bad kid.
Yeah.
So
Or you don't think you were a bad kid.
no, I wasn't. I don't think I was because I didn't. You know what people claim is a bad kid. Like I never did any of those things. You know, the worst thing that we've ever done is probably slash a tire.
That's pretty bad
Yeah,
there in my time.
but it was something that other kids did because the parent next door was always messing with her mom, and she was like, "Let's just go slash the tire." And so
Wow.
we snuck and slash the tire and got up in the morning and watched them try to fix the tire.
Do you need some help?
Yeah. Otherwise, from that, we didn't do anything. We weren't fighters. We never
Yeah.
fight. We never, we never got in trouble. We never got suspended. We were never late for school. We were all honor roll kids, and all my friends were honor roll kids. Like I never had friends with kids who were not on the honor roll.
Got you.
Right. So everybody in the honor roll crew was us.
One link.
Yeah.
One link. I got
Right.
you. Artistic. Was music the first thing you discovered about yourself, or what was the first artistic thing you discovered about yourself?
I've always loved music. So, like I would always singing chorus. Chorus was my elective class,
Okay.
and so I would do chorus. And my chorus teacher in middle school was Miss Eby, very old white lady, but she was very nice, And Miss Eby taught us a lot in music. And I too, I heard of this other teacher that used to be at, I forgot the name of the high school. But anyway, they were very good with music and instruments and stuff. And I heard that she was teaching people like how to breathe. And I found myself at the school.
Okay.
In my little self, right? I found myself at the school and I was like, I wanted to meet with you because I heard that you could teach people how to breathe.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, but there's a fee for that. And I was like, I can't pay the fee. And my mom is at work all the time. So, and she was like, well, I'm going to give you 3 free lessons, and I went back to 3 time on time, everything. And she did the thing. But in those 3 lessons, I soaked up so much, even she could not believe that I learned what I learned in the 3 days.
Because you only have
I wanted it. I only have 3
I have 3,
days.
so I better learn what I'm going to learn right now.
And I think it was really, 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 really good. It was a good thing for me.
What's interesting, too, is the fact that you wanted to learn how to breathe. That's an interesting thing to want to learn. People want to learn to sing, not breathe.
Yeah, well, you have to learn how to control your breath to sing.
Yeah. But you know that when you become a singer, but you not being a singer, that, to me, that's an interesting thing to even want to think of.
It was the least that I could do, even though I never wanted to be a singer at the time. I still love music, and I wanted to see what they had. And that was the one thing that I was I found interesting, breathing. And she was like, yeah, it goes hand in hand with controlling the voice. It's the breath.
Interesting. I know at one point you wanted to follow your mother's footsteps and become a nurse.
Yeah, but on another level. She was like a CNA, and I wanted to be a RN.
What's a CA?
A CNA is like a certified nurse assistant.
Okay.
So you assist the nurses above. You assist the LPN, you assist the RNs. That's what she was. And so I wanted to go further, but my talents and my spirit didn't allow me to finish.
Because you wanted something else opposed to that.
Yeah, when you're in something, you just know, that's not where you're supposed to be at. And so I did become the CNA. I did that in such a short time.
Oh, you did it?
I did that. And I was like, I'm going to go further. I just didn't think that it was for me at that time because especially at the time I was very skinny and very short. So people thought that I was 14, 15 when I was 19, 18, and when I walked into these places, the patients used to be like, where are you going? Who are you going to take care of me?
I'm going to take care of you because you can't take care of me.
They don't know that I was already, certified and they was like, nah, you're not taking care of me. I was looking too young. And so the agency decided to put me with children. That worked for a while, and then I just decided, hey, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
When did you form the group Unity?
The group was called Gift.
Gift. I'm thinking Unity. Gift was the name.
Yeah, it was called Gift, but I didn't form that group. I was invited into that group.
Okay.
I went to the agency, which was a modeling agency who had an artist group for four black girls.
Okay.
3 black girls, and they wanted a 4th one, and I became the 4th one. And so it was good for a while. We had a lot of fun. We had proper places to live. I was getting paid properly.
Okay.
But yeah, I just decided that it wasn't for me.
How long were you doing that stint for?
Maybe a year and a half before I decided that I was not going to continue.
And that was more R&B you guys were singing?
Yeah, R&B and rock music.
And rock. And at this time, were you playing your guitar this time here now?
No. No, I would write poetry, and I thought that I could write a song. And I was like, why don't you guys allow us to write songs? I want to write a song.
Oh, so it was basically like, here, you sing this song, and that's it. You don't write anything.
You don't do anything.
Yeah.
You just show up.
Yeah.
You don't do anything. You show up. We put you together. We tell you what you're going to look like, and you do as we say.
And I think one time Universal was actually looking at you guys.
Yeah, but I pulled out before.
Okay. Were you kind of, at this point here, more finding yourself as in Rastafari, more natural at this time here while all of this is going on?
Very, very. I was to the point where I wouldn't even drink water.
Why?
Yeah, because I learned that I learned the things that they were doing to the water that affects us.
Okay.
And to the food, certain foods that we eat. Like I learned from back then. My spirit was already telling me certain things I shouldn't drink or eat. And I was deep into it, researching. And all the research got so bad that I just would not eat or drink. That's why I was probably so very skinny.
Yeah, because you weren't eating or drinking.
No.
Was it something that you seen that got you into, or you were just searching for more knowledge of self?
Like I wanted to find myself.
And that led you down that path.
Yeah.
And then I guess because you're down this path and everybody else is on this path here, you guys just weren't gelling. Or you weren't gelling with the group.
No, I think we were all right. Because 2 other girls lived in one apartment, and me and the other girl lived in one apartment, and we weren't best friends, but we were cool. We were very open with each other, and you, of course, you have to be. You're kind of like living in the same space,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't a thing where we weren't getting along. Actually, when I left, they were crying. They were like, "Yo," the parents were like, "Hey, what are you doing? You need to come back." But it's too many things that just made me feel like it just wasn't the right thing for me to do. It wasn't the place. And especially when I got home and the Bible opened, and I thought that there was a ghost in the house, And the Bible opened to Ephesians 5. And when I read it, it says, have no lot nor part in them. And it was when I asked the question, what should I do? Should I leave or should I stay? And I just plopped on the bed and it just opened.
Just like that.
Yeah. So I thought that there definitely was somebody in the room.
And that's like a sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, you're doing that now. So then now you went full force reggae. You were more searching in the reggae Rastafari
No, I was
field?
just going to go to Jamaica, open up a business, open up an internet cafe, and I was just not going to sing anymore.
Oh, so you didn't want anything to do with music?
No, nothing to do with music.
Yeah.
Period.
So where did that change from? Okay, let's go open a business to now getting into it down there.
I just met Richie Spice crew, the Fifth Element management team, and they wanted a background vocalist, and I became the background vocalist for Richie after them tell me say it's just one show.
Yeah.
And then I came back and there was another ticket. And they just kept buying another ticket, you know. But I also found myself being very comfortable they never made me feel uncomfortable, you know, with the exception of maybe one person, but we didn't have any problem fighting it out, you know, like I was ready for the battle as it relates to that one person, but then otherwise I was just very comfortable.
So getting to Fifth Element was almost like by chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the person I was dating at the time was visiting his friend. And he was like, yeah, so the girl I want to tell us I can't sing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah. But it's shock. I mean, I said, yo, this company is so small. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, coming from where I'm coming from, I don't want to feel like I'm going backwards.
I understand.
Yeah, but then I realized it wasn't backwards at all. You know?
Yeah.
It just appeared to be small, but they were major people. You know, I wouldn't change being there for anything. I think that I've learned a lot, and that people took the time out to show me differently from what I thought.
Yeah.
You know, they showed me that there is a difference. Yeah.
From where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, you're here now. You fell into this situation here. I think you were doing background vocals for about a year?
Yeah. Almost a year. Maybe a year
From one ticket to a year.
to a year. Yeah.
And then I guess you had to say, but this is cool. But I don't think this is
No,
what
I didn't
signed
get
up
to.
for.
I didn't choose. They asked me to write a song, and within that 1 year, I wrote Wrong Address. And the song became so popular after Ron Bush had played it on air that I was just told one day, you can't go on the stage with Richie anymore. At the venue, right at the foot of the step, while I was stepping up to go on the stage, I just got this hand right here, and somebody did like this. And I said, come here. You can't go on the stage tonight.
You're now a standalone artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is that what you signed up for?
No, it felt weird.
Yeah.
I was very comfortable being a background vocalist. I did not want to go on the stage knowing that they didn't want me there. And I was puzzled as to why they would not want me there. So it felt uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah.
But eventually I learned that they thought that I would have been a distraction on the stage for Richie, because then I wasn't going to be able to go and sing Wrong Address.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it would just be that I'm there, so it wouldn't be fair to the people who are like, yo, make she sing. So I guess, yeah, it would have been a distraction.
And even with the tour, you guys did, I think you went to Africa on that tour there too, with Richie Spice?
We went all over the United States. And we went to Africa once. Wow, you took me way back.
Yeah. Okay, if I remember good,
Yeah, you
that
took me
was
way
when
back.
Rita Marley was on that
Yes.
trip. Yes, it was like a group of you guys that went.
Yeah, that was my first time.
Yeah. Remember I told you that somebody was speaking about you yesterday?
Yeah.
It was Lava Pryor from Adonai. He was on that
Oh.
trip there too, and he said, yes, we were all there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was a very interesting trip, you know. And to date, some people still get upset. Part of the family still get upset when I talk about it. But it is my experience, you know. And it's not meant to offend anyone, but just to state what I felt like, you know. And I remember the vehicle storming into the venue, like they're just racing around, and they were like, oh, Rita is going to perform right now. And I'm like, what? Then if she's singing, when me I can sing, say. Because at that time I only had like 2 songs maybe, you know, and the rest was just like a bunch of Bob Marley songs or other songs that I had put together. So I was like, no, I don't have enough songs to close a show here.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you have to go after her. And I said, okay. And my manager was fuming, my road manager, not my manager, but the road manager was fuming. And I said, you know what? Calm down. But I cuss and start no ruckus. We're too far from our yard. And I said, just let her perform, you know. And then by the time she performed now, you know, people still outside because them can't get for pay for coming in. I mean, I say, yo, on the fly the gate. If you want me to sing, fly the gate.
Yeah.
You know, because now the show is basically finished. Let the people in. And when them fly the gate, the people them storm. There was I didn't realize that it was so many people on the outside.
Yeah.
They were jumping over the fence, literally. And the soldier them got involved and they were trying to block the people and it became one mess. Eventually, they calmed down and the show started. But I remember when I was leaving, people were crying. They were trying to touch my skirt, my hair, anything them could touch. And even when I went into the room, I remember this little kid came and the tent had a plastic section. And when I put my hand up, the little kid put his hand on the tent because he couldn't come inside. And they were just trying to touch anything they could touch of me. And it was just so amazing. Yeah.
That's almost like a Michael Jackson moment.
Oh, yeah.
Where people just touch
everybody cried. Like the whole entire audience, everybody, even the stage manager, everybody. They were all just like bawling. Yeah.
It was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yeah. Was Roots out at this time here?
I don't remember. If it was out, it was new.
Yeah.
Very
Wrong
new.
Address was the big one that you were still working with. And what made you decide to pick up a guitar at this time here now?
Trying to play my own music. Because I wanted my music to sound a certain kind of way. And I know what I wanted, but I couldn't say it. Right? So I had to find a way to express it so they can understand, at least find some direction. And so I said, I'm going to just get the guitar and try to find it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up doing Roots on the guitar.
Yeah.
When I started first learning my first few chords. And what else? There were a few other songs like Nuclear and a few other ones. But we did those off the guitar in the studio.
At that time there, this is when culture was forefront at this time here now. But it was only, I think you and Queen Ifrica might have been the only two females really holding up the culture at that time there. It was the man, them, Richie Spice, Chuck Fender, Phantom Moja, Jack Cure, you name Sizzler, Turbulence. Everybody was hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what was it like now? What did it feel like now being one of the female warriors in this path right here?
Just fight for the mic, like all them bum rush the stage and grab the mic from one person. I do the same thing. I just go up on the stage and take it from the big man. Them just take it from them too, you know, and sing. Or, like, you know, when them up on the stage, I sing. Just start sing in the middle of their show. Just go up and start singing.
You're such a warrior. Everything pointed to I'm a warrior since we started talking, you know.
Yeah.
You're just bad. Rebel.
Well, if you never do that, it wouldn't work. You would be just waiting forever. There were nights when I waited from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, just waiting to get on the stage. Until one day, man said, okay, that's how you do it. Okay. So I first did it to Chuck Fender and Richie Spice when they wouldn't call me on the stage.
Well, aren't these your...
Yeah.
They're your...
So I just walked up on it, and I remember trying to walk on somebody else's stage, and the security was like, oh, you can't do that. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Look over my head and look behind me and tell me where you see. And he just kindly stepped to the side.
You know how to use your strength when you have to. You understand?
Yeah.
It's all good.
I mean, now, of course, it's different. You know, like, I think by now people understand me. They know for deal with me, you know? But back then, they had to learn, so I had to teach them.
The Gemini in you. Happy belated birthday, too.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? It was actually 1 week ago today.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do for your birthday?
Hang out with family and friends and working at a studio. You know, that's, to me, the best thing ever is to just be with my family and be able to do music. Most of the other times I'm traveling all over. I'm not there with them every day, missing out on, much of it. So when I get the chance to do it, I just want to do that.
Got you.
Yeah.
Sharon Burke. When did you get involved with Sharon Burke?
2007, 8, when when Fifth Element crew, the three managers were incarcerated. Two of them, the ones that were managing me, working with me, both of them got incarcerated. And I was told that even though I didn't want to go to Sharon Burke, that it was the better option because she was female, and they knew that they weren't sending me into somebody's hand who would want to seek sex first. So they sent me to the only female that they thought was just the best option.
At one point, you almost came in like Sharon Burke's handbag. Everywhere you see Sharon Burke,
I
you
was
see
right
Etana.
there.
I mean, country to country, parish to parish,
Yeah.
you'd see the two of you guys everywhere.
That's because the song Roots and Rangadas became so popular. So when you're in demand, I mean, because of Sharon Burke's connections, it is the best option as a female, to be represented by her. But eventually, that kind of fell apart, over. At most times, she was right. I can say that now. For the most part, she was right. She was still one of the best ones. But she just have some little things, some little ways. Yeah, that's professionally, questionable, And so I decided that it wasn't going to work out for me and her, and I just moved on.
Yeah. Your real name is Shauna. How did you come across Etana? And what does Etana mean?
Well, when Rangadas came out, because Ron Mushet decided that he wasn't going to leave the studio. He was not going to leave the studio with the Richie Spice song them unless him get wrong address. So they weren't even ready to put me out yet.
Yeah.
When he played the song on the radio and the song became popular is when them said, no, okay, you have to find a name because this Shauna thing never work.
So you recorded Wrong Address under Shauna.
Yeah. And they were like, yo, this Shauna thing not gonna work.
Yeah.
He didn't even say a name. Ron Bouchette, I don't think he even said a name,
Yeah.
So then it was like, what's your name?
Yeah.
I was like, I pulled a list of African names and just chose Etana. And that became the name. And they were like, yo, what's your name, Etana?
I could see, I know that that's some type of like an African name or something that you could hear it, but I just really wanted to know, where did you come up with this? Because
It means a strong one. It means, like how Ethan means tree planted by the water. And Etana means strength. So.
Around the same time here now, this was when I'm Not Afraid came out?
Yeah.
And what song really was the master blaster for you? Was it Wrong Address or I'm Not Afraid?
I can't even say.
Yeah. Or it was
Because
just back to back.
it was back to back to back. Yeah. It wasn't like a one over the other. It's just back to back. Like there was Wrong Address. There was, there were other songs being recorded, and then there was Roots, then Warrior Love, then Blessing, then I'm Not Afraid. It was just back to back.
Yeah. Crazy. And were you really enjoying what was happening at this time? Because remember, you didn't really go down to pursue this. Things just happened, and here I am now.
Yeah.
So were you really enjoying it, or were you just going with the flow at this time?
I was working hard.
Yeah.
Like I had no choice. Like I saw where I was, and basically, Fifth Element was no more, and I was left to handle it. So it was either swim or sink.
Yeah.
And I just decided to swim. But swimming meant playing rough.
But you got that. You learned to play rough from you were a child.
Yeah.
With your cousins.
So
You
it just
understand?
kind of all worked out,
Yeah.
It like the training was prior to, and the real test came at that moment.
After the fact.
Yeah.
First album now. When did you start working on your first album?
2008. No, well, my idea was to create the album and then release the album. you know, distribute it in the streets, like the old school style
Yeah.
from the back of the car, CDs in the back of the car. Yeah.
Why? But why would you want to do that? And you see that you have a buzz happening, so you don't have to do that.
You know, remember, I say I've been around labor people. I've been around industry people. And I know how they are. I know the game. I know it very well. More than people thought that I knew at the time, you know. And I, obviously, yes, there was still a lot for me to learn. But I knew for sure that I've seen other rappers build themselves up from the ground up, and then labels had to have a different conversation with them.
It's now becomes leverage.
Right.
Once you go in with leverage opposed to just asking, it's a
Right.
different conversation.
Right. So I did not want to have that first conversation. I wanted to have that different conversation. You know, so I was like, yo, I'm going to start my label and distribute my stuff myself. Then when I get to a certain level, then I'm going to go to a label. You know, but they didn't see it that way. Fifth Element, they were like, well, you're female and maybe it would be better to
Yeah.
just go to VP.
That was because the trick with doing reggae and dancehall, at one point there was only 3 main people
Yeah.
that you could go to, either VP, Jetstar, or Greensleeve. Then I think Jetstar might have folded, VP acquired, something happened, and then there was only one. So then if there's only one game in town, it becomes very interesting. to
There
say
was
the
another
least.
label from Japan who was trying to do a deal too. And Sharon Burke was very interested in them. She was like, let's not do VP. Let's go with these Japanese people because at least it's just for one territory and not a worldwide deal. So you can always go to different territories. You know, and I was like, no. VP was like, I mean, Fifth Element was like, go to VP. So that's what I'm going to do. You know, more loyal to them, which was the worst thing ever. It was the biggest mistake
Yeah.
I made in my life.
But you end up putting out 4 albums through VP though.
Yeah, because by this time I signed a deal and I knew, say, if you didn't release the albums, they could, or if you didn't follow through on the contract, they could sit there and shelf you and you can't do anything else for anyone, not even for yourself.
Got you.
If you put something up, they can say, hey, you are our signed artist and you can't do that and take it down. Right? So it's better to just go through the process, be done with it, and at least you know you're free and clear and you can do whatever you want.
So it was more deliverables. If you know you had signed for 4 albums,
Yeah,
let me
just do the
try
4
to work these
albums,
as quick as
knock
possible,
it out, yeah.
and get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Because your albums came out pretty quick, where there was probably 2 years in
In between each. You
album.
notice? And 2 years is a long time, but, you know, like in working each album, you realize that after releasing the album for the first time, you cannot just put out the album and say, all right, jump to the next one. You got to give the songs time to soak in. So if you run through it, then you don't really get much as an artist.
Yeah.
So my intention was to build my name and to create quality music so that when I step out on my own, then at the end of the day, I would have already set a solid foundation for myself.
Because
You know, regardless of the struggle. Because a lot of people, even when I signed with VP, you know, they thought that VP was doing all of this promotion and all of this good stuff for me. You know, but the fact is, I did a lot for myself. I promoted
With your
when they didn't
background.
want to. You
with your
know,
background coming from the U.S. market first,
Yeah.
you just take that and layer it on top of what you're
Right.
doing right now, and it would make sense.
right.
Yeah.
And so I promoted for myself. I did things when they didn't want to. I promoted my own tracks through different radio stations. I did my own videos and stuff when they didn't want to.
Okay.
You know, and then after doing the videos, they came back to me and said, well, those are our songs and we own the songs, and so you have to give us the video. So I was like, so who's going to pay me back? They said, well, I didn't tell you to do the video. So if you don't give us the video, we're going to take it down. We're going to send a takedown notice and we're going to take it down. And so you're just not going to be able to use the video anyway.
So they spoil it. It's either you give it to us,
Yeah.
or
But the fact
we'll
is, it
spoil
wasn't
everything.
true. That's not true. It wasn't true because in my agreement, I own 50% of my works. Right? So there was a gray area there that I could have fought back. But knowing that I still had like an album, another 2 albums to go, it never makes sense. It don't make sense to fight when you don't have the manpower and everything else to fight behind you.
You still have deliverables, so then this is going to put me in an awkward situation.
Right.
So
And
let
I-
me just gut through.
And give it to them, yeah. At
Get
least
it.
it's still playing. But funny enough, just because I stirred that one little conversation with them, they blocked Roots from being seen in Jamaica on YouTube.
What?
So if you're in Jamaica and you type in Roots, to this day, you can't watch that video there in a Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only
Never knew
in the
that.
United States and other parts, but not in my major market.
From there.
Yeah.
Because I know you had Free Minds from early. You
Yeah.
had released some songs under Free Mind.
Yeah.
What made you just, was it your experience from being under a label before you say, okay, I need to create my own label also?
I just had my own way. I had my own way to do things, you know. And I mean, I like when people try control me too much without giving me that freedom to express myself like I want to. And so that was one of the main reasons why in my contract that I signed with VP, I insisted that I had to have creative rights control, where everything had to go through me, like everything, you know. The mastering of stuff, the songs that they create under the terms of that agreement, all the mastering and recordings had to go through me, because at the end of the day, I didn't, you know, it wasn't my works. Like, I'm gonna create the works them from before. These songs under this contract was created by them, paid for by them, right? And so you just did have to deal with it differently.
Yeah.
So I had to have creative rights control at least.
Do your stuff with VP. Your issues with VP is well documented, so we don't really have to go full force into that there.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is I know you've been nominated for Grammys twice.
Yeah.
What was that like being nominated for Grammys now? And I think by the time you've been nominated, you were fully independent on your own at this time.
Yeah.
So then now you don't have this machine behind you and you're getting nominated. What was that like?
It was surprising. It was just knowing that, you know, all of this music was just created by my team. Me and my team, that's it. It's a very small team. And yeah, it was shocking, you know. And I remember getting a call from Christian saying, hey, you never talked about us when you talked about the Grammys. And I was like, yeah, but I never you produced a song them, son, and your song them from a talk about, you know. And yeah, that didn't go over well, you know. So it's a turning point for me, and I'm grateful to all my peers and people in music who thought that the music was of standard and quality to receive such an acknowledgement, you know.
At that time there.
Yeah.
What was amazing too is not only you got nominated, I think by the second nomination, you were actually there walking the red carpet. We see the Getty image
Yeah.
pictures and stuff like that. What was this now? Okay, getting nominated is cool, you know. But now being in the atmosphere of the Grammys rubbing shoulders, what was that like now for you?
It was great. The only thing what I never like is that the reggae part was over in where the Caribbean and everybody else music was at. You know, like in a separate room altogether.
Okay, so it's not even in the
It's
main
not
room.
in the main building. It's in another building.
Wow.
All like you're over to the side, you know, and to get into the main building, you have to do a good walk. And then you have to go up to like the third floor or something. And then it, you know, it's this big room that,
Yeah.
And so it's different, you know. But you get to experience some of the same things that they experience, and you get some of the same gifts they get, you know. So I guess it was all right. It's just that I wish that it was different, where you know everything was in one. But I guess they would need like 2 days to do that, because imagine all the countries, all the genres, all the everything.
That's true too.
Mix up with R&B, rock, da 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 da.
Everything is happening simultaneously.
Yeah, so
Got you.
it would have been, I can understand why it's that way. It would have been mad
Yeah.
if they had to combine everything. It would be there forever.
But you still wish you were on the other side, though,
Yeah.
even though you understand.
Yeah.
You get it there.
Yeah.
I know that you collaborated again lately with a collaborator that you've done great things with, Kemar McGregor.
Yeah.
Guide Over Us.
Yeah.
All right. How is that? I seen you got a plaque the other day for
Yeah.
7 million views
Yeah.
on YouTube. You explained to
In
me.
a short time,
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
You explained to me when we had the short conversation, but for whoever never seen that one there, explain why you guys actually got a plaque for 7 million views on YouTube.
Because, one of the reasons that people were saying, the views them fake, because there was this big fight between Beenie Man and Cartel crew and whatever, I wouldn't say his crew, like his fans. Like the fans were going back and forth. It was a thing, And in order for you to get like that kind of plaque, the jewel box, they have to verify with YouTube first. And it has to be like, this communication between them and the company before it's even created. Because they themselves can get in trouble for anything else. So we went through the process.
Yeah. To
Just to get it
authenticate.
verified. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To
So-
let them know that it was not fake.
It was more of a power move more than anything.
Yeah. It's just to
A
show
little
them.
flex.
Yeah. A little,
Listen, from you walking
Tiny bit.
here, everything you're seeing is warrior, boss. Warrior.
Tiny bit.
You're a warrior, boss. Listen, you're in Toronto for this weekend here, Friday, November 30th. Eiley Dread, Kings of Kings 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
All right? I know last time you said you've been here with Richie Spice, but I want you to go into your memory and think about when was the best time you remember having being in Toronto.
When I did the show at the park, there was this, what's that show called by the water? Island Soul?
Probably Harborfront.
Harborfront.
Yeah.
When I did Harborfront, it was like, even when I did it for the first time, it was so wicked because I remember the media being there, all this stuff. And even the second time that I did Harborfront, it was just like, it's almost like they start off and they're cool and they're watching, But by the time the show is done, everybody's like, wow. It's you can tell the different, like the change, the progression,
Right.
And it's just awesome to watch. Toronto people love reggae music, and I love how they get involved.
And Harborfront is a big deal,
Yeah, I know.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Man like Barrington Levy and those artists go there as solo shows. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed it the 2 times that I did it. And I'm grateful to the people, too, who invited me or thought that it was
Yeah.
cool for me to be at Harborfront. And all the people who showed up in them numbers just to see me and sing reggae music. But I think that's a pretty big deal. Like
it
you say.
is 100%
Yeah.
there. Again, the second person I spoke to today, Professor Nuts, he was in the chair and he said he's actually excited to meet you because this is the first time that he's actually doing a show with you in his entire career.
Well, I wouldn't think so because I'm a scene pan Sting, and I've done Sting too. But
Sting is
international show, like outside of Jamaica, but this is the first time that we're actually gonna speak to each other.
That's so
So
crazy
that
to
is
think
the
about
difference.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we work on the same stage, but it was never at the same time where we would meet.
That's wild.
So now this is the first time.
Yeah. This is going to be interesting right here in Toronto. Leave a message for Toronto why they should come out and come see you Friday, May 30th at JCA for one more year upon them. Kings of Kings 30th anniversary. Tell me why.
Well, it's about my show and it's about my performance, but there's a bigger reason for them to be there, because collectively we contribute to those in need in Jamaica and here in Canada, right? Eiley Dread has such a big heart, and he provides part proceeds to charity in Jamaica and here in Canada. From strength to strength, helping to build up those who need just a little extra push or a little extra touch. And that's how your you showing up to see the show means that you're also getting involved in charity and in giving back to your community, home and abroad. So that is the reason why you should come out and see me and Professor Nuts and everybody else on that show, because we're all collectively giving back.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's something big for you, is to give back is something that you really believe in.
All the time. Like we do have a charity event coming up in Jamaica called 1 August.
Yes.
Yes, and
Just seen the flyer for it
we're
today.
going to be giving away a lot of things. Kemar McGregor is very instrumental in this one, and he has a lot to say and do.
Yeah.
And I'm very much happy to be a part of it all, because I know that some children, we're going to put some smiles on some children's face. We're going to put smiles on teachers' face, and we're going to put smiles on people in the community face. Them smile are going to be very wide.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it,
Yeah.
you know.
1
I think that's the
August
best part of giving back, 1 August.
Got you. I asked you to leave them with a message, so the last thing I'm going to ask you to leave with is an a cappella, not a medley, an a cappella of your song that you choose that Toronto people definitely need to come hear.
Ha! Woo! You said not a medley. May I have to pick one?
One.
Arise, arise, see I'm hurting but not broken, down but I won't die. Arise, we rise, soon I will reach the sky, and still we rise.
Just say that. Leave some social media contacts where they could check you out before we get out of here.
At Etana Strong One, ETANA STRONGONE. That's on Instagram and Twitter. And on Facebook, it's One Etana ONE, ETANA. And on TikTok, it's Etana Live, ETANA LIVE.
Definitely. Big up management for making it happen. You know what I mean? He's a timekeeper, made sure we kept on time.
He's
all
always doing
good
that.
stuff. Yes,
Can
we
I tell
know.
you how he's always doing that? Always, always, always. Okay? Like always.
That's why he's supposed to. That's his role to do that. You know what I mean? To make sure everything runs smoothly. And that's what he did. You
God.
understand? Big up Eiley Dread for making this happen also too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Etana, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us. Again, when you're back in the city, we'll sit down and get even more in depth, because I know your mind
Oh, God.
is a very interesting place. We'll leave it as interesting. You're a warrior with an interesting mind.
Thank you.
You understand?
Yeah.
Bam. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Muscle, and this has been another Two Line Music Hut's Entertainment Report podcast, and we are out.
Out.
Bam. This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinesmusichut.com.